I don't even know how to describe it the right way, but the bat of nails, I guess, the enlarged toothbrush. I don't know what you would call it. That was used in that match last night between Adam Copeland and Jon Moxley, and that the nails in the back of Jon Moxley. By the way, a lot of credit to Jon Moxley, Nick. We had Thunder hosting on our show yesterday. Major snowstorm in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yes.
Jon Moxley drove 11 hours because there was no planes, no flights going into Omaha. So he drove the 11 hours to be a part of that show last night. And then you see the spot during that match where there was that bat of nails that just went into the back of Jon Moxley. Edge slamming Moxley into those nails, and it was embedded into his back where Wheeler Yuta and Paul Turner had to not only pull but twist and pull the nails out of Jon Moxley's back. I mean, Busted Open After Dark was hosted by Tommy Dreamer. When Tommy Dreamer, and we have the video up all on our socials, when Tommy Dreamer said he got queasy and had to look away, that's one for the ages, like we saw last night.
Several people probably would have went above and beyond to make sure they got to their dates, to their shows, because this is a weird business where everyone is psychotic and doesn't ever want to miss a date and never wants to disappoint a fan. But this is another occasion where he's always doing something extra above hardcore. Whatever you think of the storyline right now, that doesn't matter. The guy has been there, and through thick and thin for AEW, he's been their guy. When in doubt, when there's an injury, when there's an issue, when there's a problem, when anything is going wrong, it is a break glass in case of emergency and bring out Moxley to do something. That being said, because he is one of those guys that would do anything. And he's always going a little bit more hardcore the last couple of years than the WWE years, obviously, because it's a different product. But when you see something like this, where every couple of weeks or months he's doing something a little bit crazier, please focus on the part where he goes, I want to make people happy. I want people to say that they had the greatest time of their life at this show. And then you see something extra disgusting like this is a huge positive, I think, for several reasons. So bear with me. One, it is a totally different product than you're used to. Please understand that. This is the reason AEW exists, is because people were tired of a crappy WWE product at the time. So you got a total alternative. Now you got something where there's always a couple different, either a giant plate of glass or a big screwdriver or something being used, and they go above and beyond. And that giant bat 2x4 with the spikes in it, if anything, it's been used a few times by Cope. And you're like, oh yeah, okay. It looks the part. It looks like there's 6-inch nails coming out of a wood bat, whatever it is. Something like this makes people like me go, well, is it really? Are those sharp nails? Like, what's the deal? It gives a little street cred to a weapon like that, because you've seen it swung, you've heard it hit, and it hurts. It's crazy that it's happening. But when something like this goes above and beyond and digs into the body, you're now letting everybody know this is something really big. That the next time Cope holds that thing in the air, they're not going to be like, ooh, there's that spike bat. They're going to be like, there's that thing that almost ripped the organs out of around the sides of Moxley's back. And it almost it's good for the business to give a little street cred to those weapons, because sometimes you see them like being held weird, but with your hand over the top, or you, for some reason, when we hold a sledgehammer, we put our hand over the hard part and swing it at someone's head. There's all these different pieces that make a show, but make it interesting. And Moxley goes above and beyond to make sure there's something special and different. And now there's extra street cred to that Cope bat spike thing. And hopefully, as long as he, poured a bottle of peroxide into his back and probably sewed up a few holes, I think he should be good to go. But that is something that says, one, Tommy Dreamer from ECW was grossed out. I watched it and was like, a couple of times I went, oh my God. And then I saw the skin pull off of his back with the spikes. And I go, this is crazy, and something that I haven't seen on television that I can imagine in my entire life. And then you went into a couple different, things to have the finish of the match. But when it comes to that bat in the back, it is something that there's a lot of people that used to say when I was in WWE, I'm willing to do anything for the company. That might not be the case in WWE, but that might be the case in some other places to where you got to go above and beyond to get people talking about you. And again, Moxley's one of those guys that will always do that for the love of the game. And it was pretty gross to me. And when I was watching, I got to tell you, I was cringing a little bit too. And I feel like I could go through anything and watch anything. And that was something that I went, oh my God, I hope he's okay.
It's not for everybody. I totally understand that. I understand that it may turn people off, but you know what? Jon Moxley's not going to do something that he does not want to do.
Right.
Jon Moxley was fine with doing that, and I don't understand wrestling fans now and that are all of a sudden like throwing their arms in the air and their hands in the air saying like, this is too much. This is too violent. This is too bloody. Like, if you don't like it, don't watch. Nobody's forcing you to watch this. AEW is a completely different product. And listen, nobody's more critical of AEW than I am, to the point now where people are labeling me an AEW hater, which I am not. This is where
you're paid
I am
by WWE. That's what makes you the hater.
I'm not paid by anybody but SiriusXM. Thank you very much. But this is where I will defend AEW, and I will defend Jon Moxley.
Yeah.
Like, if Jon Moxley wants to do this, he's not being forced to do it. If he wants to go this extra mile and make this product look unlike any other product, especially the WWE, I'm all for it. The WWE does not give you blood. And if they do, it's very little. We just saw the cage match with CM Punk and Seth Rollins where there was no blood, and I understand why there was no blood. But if we're going to get blood, I'm fine with that. And I think everybody should be fine with it too. If you think it's disgusting and it's not your thing, then guess what? You have a choice. You can turn it off. You don't have to watch it. But you know what? I have no problem with my pro wrestling being violent. I have no problem with my pro wrestling being bloody. There's a thing called deathmatch wrestling. Those wrestlers choose to be deathmatch wrestlers. It's a completely different form of pro wrestling. Because you don't like it doesn't mean that it should be banned or it shouldn't be around or it shouldn't be a part of pro wrestling. No, just don't watch it. Jon Moxley's trying to do something that is completely different. What you saw last night on Dynamite, you would never see on a Monday Night Raw. You would never see on a SmackDown. And that's fine. WWE wants to include everyone as part of their pro wrestling. They want the 99-year-old man and they want the 9-year-old kid. AEW is saying, you know what? We are different. You know what? We're going to give you something that the other big product doesn't give you. And I just don't understand why now everybody's like, oh my God, Tony Khan. Oh my God, the sponsors are. That's Tony Khan and AEW's problem. Why is all of a sudden the fan worried about what Warner Brothers thinks or what the sponsors are going to think? Come on, give me a break. Give me a break. Yeah. You want to complain just to complain. Let Tony Khan worry about Warner Brothers. Let Tony Khan worry about the sponsors. I love the fact that AEW is going to be a little bit more violent and AEW is going to show a lot more blood. Maybe that's the reason why I watch AEW. So you don't like it? You don't like it? Wrestling police? Then fucking turn it off and don't watch. But don't make that... Like, now all of a sudden, people complain when AEW brings in former WWE wrestlers and they call it, quote-unquote, WWE Light. But now they want the product to be just like the WWE.
Right.
Like, yeah, you know, I think there's people that just want to complain for the sake of complaining.
And that's what it is. Like, we all have a mouthpiece on social media. We all complain, and that's understood. And we all do that. People like to complain because they like to be talked about and they want to be the main character of the day. And that's all fine. All that works. You got a different product with AEW. It is above and beyond. I think one of the times I watched it, there was a pizza cutter going over someone's face with blood coming out while they were picture in picture for a pizza company commercial, and it was pretty funny. But there's things like that. Like, yes, you wanted an alternative to WWE. You got one. The alternative, putting out a different show, made WWE force themselves to get better and a couple different points to make better TV. And now you have a different, absolutely different thing. It is something that people want to see. Again, like you said, Jon Moxley's not doing anything. He's not being forced to do something. If he wants to do something, that company, you got a lot of leeway to go, hey, I want to go above and beyond and find something. Also, I would assume that in their heads, that bat or that 2x4 with the spikes was going to be used to like have little dots of red show up on Moxley's back, not get intertwined into his spine like it did. So even that, like, that, because that's something when there's a big gash and you're like, it's hard to keep fighting. But man, they did it. It worked out. And people just want to complain so everyone can talk about them, I think, because no, you're right. Who the hell, what fan is sitting at home going, how many t-shirts did Ospreay sell? Should he be in this match? I wonder if Warner Brothers thinks about the ratings this week. Like, as a fan, even someone like me who's watching the show for homework doesn't sit there and go, I wonder if the stock price is going to go up, because technically I go, no. I go, holy shit, that bat is stuck in Moxley's back, and he's not going to give up right now because the title's on the line. And no matter what you think of the story and this alternate show in a different reality of your 8-year-old kids and grandparents at a WWE show, this is something special and it's different. And yes, it's more hardcore sometimes. But if it wasn't, you might have the same damn show with different guys and gals on a different channel. So you're now competing with everything that happens on the internet, everything that happens on World Star, on Twitter, on X, anything. And you want to go above and beyond and show a real gory chunk, just like a Terrifier movie or some kind of action movie that you just saw on Netflix, then this is the place for you. Plus, you get your favorite wrestling and wrestlers. So I really think something like that is you can go above and beyond. And of course, you got to find yourself. You got to outdo yourself. But also, this isn't for the long haul. This is not a 6-episode series. This is hopefully for the next 50 years or longer. So if outdoing yourself is the way to go, but to a point, be careful when you get somewhere, because then you're stuck. But I have zero problems with this. I enjoyed it. Moxley's a badass, and he wanted to show everybody, hey, I'm fighting for this title. I got this title locked in a suitcase. You hate my guts right now, but just so you know, I'm still a badass dude who's willing to go through anything to keep it.
And this is another reason why, like, I still feel like when it comes to Jon Moxley, it's misguided in this sense. I still think when it comes to AEW, Jon Moxley could be the face of AEW. He should be their biggest baby face, not their biggest heel. Like, especially knowing now that guy drove 11 hours. And I understand what you're saying, Nick. Wrestlers do that all the time. But you know what? He could have missed that show. He drove 11 hours to get, like, nails in his back for the pleasure of the AEW fan. That again makes me want to rally around Jon Moxley, not boo Jon Moxley or hate Jon Moxley. And again, I just feel like what I feel about this Death Rider story or everything, that's irrelevant right now. Yeah. Like, what I saw last night makes me want to cheer Jon Moxley, makes me want to get behind Jon Moxley. I just don't understand the fans being all up in arms about the violence and the blood. I mean, like, listen, man, I grew up watching Georgia Championship Wrestling. Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich, they would bleed every Saturday on TBS. Like,
and that's everybody's like, back then when there's not action movies and Terrifier movies where people are ripping their skin off their bodies on television on a weekly basis. Yes. Different times.
And like, Jon Moxley bleeds a lot. All right. You know what? You know who also bled a lot? Abdul the Butcher bled. Every time that guy would step into the ring, he would be bleeding. Bruiser Brody bled in every single match that he was in. Every big match Jimmy Superfly Snuka was in, he bled. I mean, even Hogan back in the day when he was in a big match. Why is everybody all of a sudden saying, like, oh my God, there's too much blood? Why? Don't watch. You know what? I love the WWE. I love Raw. SmackDown is way too fucking long, and sometimes I want to poke my eyes out. But
Is
like
it still
I love
3 hours?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous.
Oh
It's like they don't want you to watch. So, and then and listen, I love the WWE. You know what though, and despite everybody's opinion, I love AEW. I'm critical because I care.
Right.
But I don't understand. Like now, all of a sudden, wrestling fans in 2025 are like, boy, this wrestling's too violent and wrestling's too bloody. And oh my God, what are the sponsors thinking? And what is Warner? Like, I had to get off people are actually treating, Warner Brothers isn't going to be, who fucking cares about Warner Brothers? Like, really, are you really staying up at night wondering, oh my gosh, Warner Brothers, they might want to discontinue their contract with AEW? Like, shut the fuck up. My God. Like, you give a shit. Worry about getting a raise at your job. Don't worry about what's coming in and out of Tony Khan's pocket. My God. Oh. You know what attracted me to wrestling, Nick? You know what? You could call me a sick fuck, call me whatever you want. You know what attracted me? It wasn't the masterful promos or the skill set of a wrestler. You know what got me into wrestling? The violence and the blood.
Yeah.
The violence and the blood. That's what first attracted me to pro wrestling.
Oh, God. It really has become a thing where it's cool to talk about in a negative way anything, whether it's something you love or if you're a hardcore WWE guy and you find a way to be like, this stuff all sucks, amateur hour bullshit. And you're like, and if you're an AEW hardcore fan, you're like, oh, that's for babies and little kids and everyone's catchphrases and stuff. So all I do is when I get a chance to watch something that I love, no matter what the company is, I know that it is different products. And I'm doing pretty well and I've saved my money and I don't give a damn about some executive for Warner Brothers, what they might think of a show. They know what they got. This is not the second week of AEW. They know what they got. They know why they're locked in. I know why it is a beautiful alternative to someone like me who only watched WWE for 20 years. I love it. I know that there is fans that it is very cool to go above and beyond and have everyone look at you online, whether you're saying something absolutely ridiculous or just trying to stand out. I know how that works. I know how everybody's deal is and everybody wants to see everyone talking. What I like is that you can get a different product on different nights, completely different rosters, and even the sense that you feel when the show starts is absolutely different. And that is something that we needed for a long time.
Yeah, it's just like music or movies. Like, you don't want everything to sound the same. You don't want every movie to look the same. You want something different, and it may be your cup of tea. It may not be your cup of tea. When back in the day when I was I watched everything. Like, and there were certain shows, like I'll use the example, AWA. Like AWA in the late 80s, it was a tough watch. At times it was a tough watch. But I loved wrestling. I still watched, and then there were times I would tune out, and there was times I would tune in. Now it's just like, and I get it with AEW and the tribalism, and we like to fight and we like to go back and forth. Like this is one of those things where I want to wave the flag of AEW and say, let's fucking go. Like some of this is criticism is way over the top, and like the fact that I'm that's too gory, that's too bloody. I got to be like, come on, it's pro wrestling. Not every pro wrestling match needs to be like a Kenny Omega Will Ospreay match, where it's like this, where it's scientific. It's good to have that. That's great. But my God, there's a place for this too.
I completely get it.
And, you know what? I want more. I want more violence. I want more blood. Give me more blood. Give me more. I want more.
And someone who loves all kinds of wrestling, and if we're just talking, the two that everyone argues about the most online, I love seeing that. I love seeing the vast difference between the two, but also, again, like I said right at the beginning, there is something that is even bigger now. Something that I love that I learned in WWE was intent. Was Very much so. How we've seen Cope in that year that he's been there, holding up that giant 2x4 with the spikes in it, and you go, oh my God, what can possibly happen? And it's like, oh, he missed this guy, and this guy ducked out of the way, and they got to something. And then eventually down the line, someone got hit in the stomach with it, and you go, oh my God, nails in the guts. And the intent, and then another match happens, and he holds it up again, and the intent is there, like, oh, where are they going now? And then they went for it and stuck it in Moxley's back, and it was melted and weaseled and tied and ground in there so grossly that now you go, oh, that is how you pay that off, whether that was intentional or not. And two, when that intent shows up next time, the place is going to lose their mind, and you don't even have to use it. You just have to present it. That's that beautiful part of pro wrestling, when you can just introduce something, and it's very much like an old Hitchcock movie where you just kind of, you don't get you don't get told, I'm going to cut your fingers off one by one. You just get someone looking at a table that has a little set of garden shears on it and looking over at someone's hand who's tied into a chair, and you get that beautiful, scary, I don't know what's going to happen intent. What the hell are they going to do? And sometimes you get it, and sometimes you don't, and sometimes you get 10 fingers chopped off and a guy's falling apart into a bloody mess. That is the beauty of our business.